Welcome to the first episode of Just Listen to One. This episode is going to be me talking about abuse and neglect. Here is some things about abuse and neglect. All types of abuse and neglect, leaving lasting scars. Some of these scars might be physical, but emotional scarring has long-lasting effects throughout life, damaging a child's sense of their future, relationships, and ability to function at work, school, and home. Physical abuse is an intentional use of physical force that can result in physical injury. Example including hitting, kicking, shaking, burning, or other shows of force against a child or in general. Sexual abuse involves pressuring or forcing a child or a person to engage sexual acts, which includes behaviors such as fondling, penetration, and exposing a child or another to sexual activity. When it comes to a child, please see CDC's Protective Child Sexual Abuse website for more information. Emotional abuse refers to behaviors that harm a child's self-worth or emotional well-being, include example name-calling, shaming, rejecting, unfolding love, and threatening. Neglect is a future fail to meet a child's needs based on physical and emotional needs. These needs include housing, food, clothing, education, access to medical care, and feeling validated and rightly response to. Signs and symptoms of abuse and neglect in childhood. Infant intensity crying or delay in growing, fear, anxiety, being more clingy, phobias, nightmares/sleeping problems, bedwetting, social withdrawal, hyperventilating, and lack of concentrating. And those are just a few. And if you think somebody is being abused as a child, those are some signs and what they are of abuse and neglect. And I'm going to be talking about during my childhood and whatnot, and history and background with that. So I'm just going to get right into it. When it came to physical abuse, I was at risk, but my parents never physically done anything towards me. What I mean about that is when my parents were drinking and going into, and drinking and driving when I was in the vehicle, or this could considered physical abuse, so it may not, but in having me in the vehicle or whenever before they split up, arguing and slamming things and whatnot. So that's kind of doing things kind of out of anger or frustration and whatnot, rather it's towards each other or themselves, whatever it may be at that point in time. When it comes to sexual abuse, neither of my family members has never sexual abused me in any shape or form. But outside of family, I have, and as a child and as an illegal adult up now, when it came to sexual abuse, there were unwanted physical / touching, contacting, and unwanted comments, etc. And from my memory, I could be wrong, but from my memory, my parents never gave me that good / bad touch talk or the sex talk in general. From my memory, if they did, it was pretty darn vague and not memorable, I guess, for me to know rather or not if they did or didn't. And if anyone has, it would have been my older sister, and I was 16 at the time. She was in her early late teens, early 20s at that point in time. When it comes to neglect, when it comes to that, to me being home and me being scared or uncomfortable when my parents were drinking, most of the abuse or neglect in any shape or form mainly became part of the drinking. Before they split up, they would fight and maybe got, from hearing things from my bedroom and not physically seeing it, from maybe sounds like physical abuse to one another. And if I would have walked out, it could have happened to me on accident, and a lot of or even lots of verbal and emotional abuse to one another kind of thing, and just hearing that. So kind of like that kind of neglect and whatnot towards me. I'm not going to speak on behalf of my, sister, because of a lot of situations and, whatnot, because my experience could be a different point of view or experience with her. So this is just going to be my point of view, my experience, my, situation. So I should let you guys know that with that now. When it comes to discipline, not by my parents, but I was getting spanked or getting physical, hit. So with that, but when it came to my parents or non-family members, it was normal kind of discipline, I guess. I would do more chores or depending on the whole situation, but sometimes it's all of these. It'll be like a little bit of more one thing than the other, but I would get a lot more chores. I would be Tronic free, so I'll get my Tronic privileges away for X amount of time. I would possibly miss out on some events, like maybe dances or school dances or whatnot, or not hanging out with friends or neighbors, etc. What my thoughts are on kids being disciplined, when it comes to when they are doing something they're not supposed to, personally, I think as long as it's not physical and putting their lives in danger, then you gotta do what you gotta do. Because in the real world, things are gonna getting taken away, or privileges are getting taken away when you're doing things. By the time you're a legal adult, are gonna you're gonna have less fun or less fun opportunities. So taking certain kind of things away, I feel like is more better option to discipline. So if you're gonna use your electronics irresponsibility, like not responsible, well, you're not gonna have your phone for X amount of days or months or weeks, whatever it may be, depending on the whole situation. When it comes of getting ready to school, it was overall my responsibility to get up and get ready, etc. The only time that going to school is when I have a big instrument like my cello, then that's when parents would help me to go to school. Other than that, it is walking distance. And by the time I was in high school, I had my license, so I can drive myself. So when it comes to before having a license, I walked to school because it was walking distance. It was within 5 blocks, if that, to school. So I always walk home, walk to and from school to get home. And whenever I am home, I give my mom a call from work saying like, yo, I'm home, I'm safe, I'm alive, and kind of thing, just a safety thing, and whatnot. So that's kind of like the closest of like school time of the year. It's not much of like the main thing I would have need help the most, for the most part as a kid, is waking up in the morning and being up kind of thing. That's like the closest of help that I kind of needed overall, unless if I'm not going to school that day because I was sick the night before and I shouldn't go to school kind of situation. But when it comes to looking back, do I feel bad, going down to memory lane, do I feel bad about myself and whatnot? At times I do, mainly because of me being the youngest or the baby of the family. Nobody really took me that serious, and whenever I need to be heard, nobody's hearing me and thinks it's a joke and laughing and whatnot. And that's when I start acting out, I guess, per se, because I didn't feel comfortable nor safe, going to a parent or whomever. And that's where X, Y, and Z comes along, of mental health and whatnot comes along. And that's whenever I do, growing up, sometimes it's more difficult for me to tell people things because nobody takes me seriously, unless if I act out or yelling or using some kind of aggression is when people took me seriously as a kid. And that's all I know, I guess, or thought I know growing up. So when it came to emotional abuse, it can be as common form as like verbal abuse or psychologically abuse. And when it comes to that, whenever I get emotional or verbal abuse, it's normally when there's alcohol involved and they won't remember what they have or haven't said or promised or etc. But normally when it comes to emotional support, emotional abuse, I have gotten comments from people, aka family, of my weight, and name calling with I'm a spoiled little beep and so on. A lot of emotional stuff, and that's where I become more self-conscious. So and yeah, that is the kind of overall summary of my childhood abuse slash neglect. If you want me to go more into detail or want more information of any of that, let me know in the comments. I would highly appreciate if you subscribe and follow and if whatnot. I hope you guys enjoyed my first podcast out here for you guys and enjoy this first episode. And if you do, let me know, share, etc. And thank you for listening. Bye.